What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Today, it's episode 666, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. I did try to get a couple of people on the pod, and I wasn't able to because of scheduling conflicts. So, what I'm going to do, something dropped from JD Vance, the vice president, where he discusses how much he has investigated about UFOs since the last time he said it on a different podcast.
There are stories that I am particularly focused on, in part just because you talk with your buddies about it. Like, I'm obsessed with the whole UFO thing. What's actually going on? What were those videos all about? What's actually happening? I haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet, but we're only 6 months in. We've been very busy. That's actually the August recess is in part me going to try to dive to the bottom of the whole UFO thing from last year. So
I mean, you got to have us back.
Okay, I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
We'll help you go through the whole Roswell situation and everything.
Yeah.
He's a big UFO guy. So.
I am. I've been to Roswell. I've done the tours. I've done the whole thing.
Did you see any aliens?
No, I saw the hangar where they were.
Now, he went to Italy. He investigated a lot there, apparently. We don't know the exact investigation he performed or who he talked to, anything like that. But he did mention where he is in the investigation in the most recent Pod Force 1 from the New York Post. Ms. Miranda Devine is the one who conducted the interview. If you guys don't remember who Miranda Devine is, she was the one who talked to both President Donald Trump and DNI Tulsi Gabbard, and she asked them both about UFOs, drones, and she got some really juicy statements from them. And today is no different. So let's see what JD Vance spoke about, and we're going to try to land it a little bit more because there is a major debate with people who are on JD Vance's side and with people who are not on his side in terms of what they think this is. So here it is. Shout out to UAP James for clipping this one. So here's the exchange right here.
One last question about UFOs. So I'm a mad UFO lunatic as well. Yeah. So, and you said, I think the Ruthless podcast that you were going to, in August, you were going to figure out what happened. So have you
That was a little tongue in cheek. I've not figured it out yet. I haven't had the time to figure it out yet.
But you've got access to all this.
I do. And I really want to sort of dig into it. You know, Marco's actually very interested in this too. We talked about this talked about this back in our Senate days. So there's certainly an interest there. There's certainly an intrigue, but I haven't yet had the time to really dig in. Things have been so busy, but this is the crazy person inside of me. And there's, all of us put the tinfoil hat on from time to time. I'm like, I can't allow myself to become so busy that I spend the next 3 years and I don't get to the bottom of this. So I will get to the bottom of this, but it's going to take me a little time.
Because Tulsi Gabbard says that she believes there are aliens. Do you believe that?
I don't, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that I do or don't believe it. I mean, I'm a big believer that there are things out there that we can't explain. And so if another person sees an alien, maybe I see an angel or a demon. So I'm a big believer that there are like spiritual forces working on the physical world that a lot of us don't see and a lot of us don't understand and a lot of us don't appreciate. But, is it aliens or is it our guardian angel, or is it aliens, or is it a not so guardian force that doesn't care about us, or in fact, actively wishes us harm? I don't know the answer to that question. What I try to do is I try to say my prayers. I try to be as good of a person as I can be, and I try to do a good job. And hopefully that's all I need to do.
He clearly went there. Thank you to UAP James again for the clip. And this is something that within the Republican Party is prevalent, but also speaking to people from different parts of the UFO community. I've been told that the people at the very top do believe this. And this is one of them, though. He's the vice president of the United States. Most of the people who believe in this are Republican and are Christian or very religious. And I guess that we need to land the interpretation a little bit better, because throughout time, throughout millennia, there's been a different type of definition depending on the times. So when the Sumerians were present, the interpretation of these things and the things that normal, regular humans could not explain was something like what Tom DeLonge said right here.
In the time of the ancient Greek civilization, these gods came in and they passed down a huge amount of knowledge. That's when we got the alphabet, and that's when we really got into all the mathematics and everything that we know that comes with the ancient Greek civilization. I put down a question where I said, it looks to me that these gods came down here and they tampered with the Sumerian civilization, and then they started fighting amongst themselves, and then mankind started to factionalize. Well, something happened with those gods fighting other gods, that we have all those ancient myths of Olympus and the Titans and all of that stuff. After that, it seems to me that the gods stuck around and they started playing up the different religions between mankind. So we can now be so entertained fighting each other that this intelligence can roam around the planet to do whatever else it is it's trying to do, whether it's trying to tamper with the DNA of mankind, or it's trying to figure out how to harness a human being's soul. Whatever it might be after, I'm not totally sure. Everything in those early advisory group communications were fine, but when I touched on the idea of hybrids in the human soul is when all the communication stopped on that thread. So I have to look at that as something that I shouldn't have been going into at the time.
So that's basically after the gods and after all of those interpretations, religions came, and all of those concepts of ancient gods morphed into those angels and demons concepts. And there's a lot of people that still believe that. I've told this story before. My dentist, when I told him what I was doing with the podcast, he was like, "Oh, I know what those are." And I'm like, "Really? You do?" He's like, "Yeah, they're demons." And I'm like, "So you're very Christian, right?" "Yeah." And that's the definition that we have for those things. It's demons or angels, depending on what you're looking at. I'm like, "Okay." So I didn't tell him anything because I obviously didn't want to offend him in any way. But I do think that this is a matter of interpretation. And somebody who spoke about this brilliantly was John Keel. And he had this definition of how the trickster element in the phenomenon is playing with human perception, essentially, and has been playing forever with human perception. So here's John Keel.
That seemed very Fortean to some of you, but everything is interrelated. And the more we study history and the more we study current events, we see that all of these things are linked together in strange ways. That the UFOs, as most of you know who have read my books, I don't think they're extraterrestrial at all. I think they're definitely tied to the human race, and that they react to things that are happening to the human race. I don't think they're vehicles. I think sometimes people see what appears to be vehicles, but they're really hallucinatory. And no matter how reliable the witness is, what they see can be questioned. The same is true in many of our Bigfoot cases and the strange monster cases, that the people see some image that's planted in their mind, and the creature itself probably doesn't exist at all, at least not as the creature that's seen. When I was in India, I was impressed at the number of people who were seeing the Indian gods, multi-armed gods and all. Whatever your belief is, these manifestations are going to assume that form.
For me, John Keel is one of the people that got maybe closest to whatever this is, and not even he knows. I recently shared an episode where he talks about the darker side of this thing and his personal beliefs. I'm going to leave it in the description so you guys can check it out. As we moved along throughout the years and throughout the decades, there had to be a more serious and scientific approach to all of this. And there's nobody better than one of the OGs, Dr. Stanton Friedman, to sort of tell us what's been going on in the government side about these UFOs, what he used to call flying saucers. So here's the late, great Stanton Friedman.
I've reached four major conclusions. One, the evidence is overwhelming that Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some, underline 10 times, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. Don't care about them. Two, there is no doubt that a small number of people within governments, both in the United States and overseas, have been actively covering up the truth about these visits. There really is a cosmic Watergate. Three, there are no good arguments against these conclusions, only people who haven't studied the relevant evidence. And four, flying saucer visitations and the cosmic Watergate represent the biggest story of the millennium. And I should say that I prefer the term flying saucer because all flying saucers are UFOs. Very few UFOs are flying saucers. The basis for these conclusions: A, there are at least 5 large-scale scientific studies which provide substantial evidence. These include Project Blue Book Special Report number 14, the largest study ever done for the United States Air Force, covering more than 3,200 cases with more than 200 charts, tables, graphs, and maps. It is quality evaluation, cross-comparison between unknowns and knowns. The official press release lied about the data. I'll document that in a minute. It is almost never referenced by UFO debunkers. Dr. Carl Sagan, we were classmates at the University of Chicago, claimed there are interesting UFO sightings that are not reliable, and reliable UFO sightings that are not interesting. But there are no cases that are both reliable and interesting. This statement was not backed up by reference to data, but is directly contradicted by the Blue Book Special Report 14 data. It was found that the more reliable the case, the more likely to be unexplainable. United States Air Force Secretary Donald Quarles, in the very widely distributed press release when the 1955 study was completed, flat out lied. It's a strong statement, and I'm sorry to make it, but it's true. He stated, quote, "We believe that no objects such as those popularly described as flying saucers have overflown the United States. Even the unknown 3% could have been identified as conventional phenomena or illusions if more complete observational data had been available." The fact of the matter in the report that he was talking about is that the unknowns comprise 21.5% of the cases, completely separate from the 9.3% listed as insufficient information. The 3% number was a lie. Furthermore, a statistical comparison of the unknowns and knowns showed that the probability that the unknowns were just misknowns was less than 1%. It must further be noted that the press release did not give the title of the report or the company that did the work, Battelle Memorial Institute. If they'd given the title, surely some newsman would have said, "Hey, what happened to reports 1 through 13? They'd never heard about them. The correct answer, had it been given, would have been that they were all classified. It's a very valuable source of information, this report. It's funny how the debunkers never talk about it. Another primary source of valuable data, which should be of interest to you all, are the congressional hearings of July 29th, 1968, which included testimony from 12 scientists.
Now, I wanted to pause on this one because, yeah, those hearings happened, and now we have new hearings, 3 consecutive ones. No scientists there, only military personnel, which is kind of strange. I think we're long overdue for another scientist to step on that stand and under oath response to questions from either the Senate or Congress. But that's just my opinion.
The most important paper was by Dr. James E. McDonald, professor of physics at the University of Arizona. He had talked to 500 witnesses, but he presented 41 outstanding cases, including multiple witness radar visual sightings, sightings by pilots, by astronomers, by meteorologists. He noted physical trace cases, of which by now more than 5,000 have been collected by Ted Phillips from 95 countries. They get dull. Same thing was happening all over the world. Saucers seen on the ground, it leaves, they find physical changes. Happens here, it happens there, it happens everywhere. 1/6 of those cases involved reports of small beings associated with the craft while it was on the ground. I was the youngest contributor to those, and I think the only survivor since then, to those hearings in 1968. And I was the only one without a PhD. That might tell you something. I'm not sure what. The proceedings, incidentally, are still available online. One of the contributors was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, chairman of the astronomy department at Northwestern University, and for 20 years, United States Air Force scientific consultant to Project Blue Book. His book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry, should be required reading by anybody who's going to talk about flying saucers, especially negatively. According to another source here, according to a special UFO subcommittee of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, world's largest group of space scientists, 30% of the 117 cases studied by the University of Colorado, government-sponsored study in the late 60s, and discussed in the Condon report, Edward U. Condon, could not be identified. And yet the headline said scientific study shows no UFOs. Totally untrue. There's a 2-volume report called the UFO Evidence, which has loads of data, hundreds of cases that couldn't be identified. There's also the Cometa report from France, which goes into numerous excellent officially involved cases in France. There are a dozen PhD theses about UFOs. One of them demonstrating how poor the press coverage has been. I haven't seen one about coverage by the scientific community or coverage by the political committee. That's another story. Anybody need a PhD thesis topic? There's 2 good ones. Also, a third one, the will not to believe on the part of scientists. It's a sickness, a disease, if you will, infecting people who think they know all there is to know and don't.
This was in 2013. This is the citizen hearing on UFOs. You can recognize on the left side of the screen, Rich Dolan and Grant Cameron, friends of the show. This was back in 2013, as I told you, about 12 years ago. Since then, things have gotten quite weirder than as they stood back then. This was just 4 years before the New York Times article. But we've seen a major shift, and that is completely linked to the religious dogma that currently rules the world in many ways. There's a war going on in the Middle East that is religiously charged. In the US, there is the Christian nationalist movement that is also dominating even politics at this point. There's people in the White House who are like believers in this, but from their own interpretation. And what I want to remind people is that, yeah, back then, that's what people believed, but this is the 21st century. We're in 2025 right now. And whatever you have read in scripture or tales of angels, demons, and all that, you need to remember what Tom DeLonge and John Keel said, and also combine it with what Dr. Stanton Friedman said here. Because as humanity keeps evolving, these concepts need to keep evolving as well. Otherwise, we're going to be lost in the past and we're going to be stuck there. And we're not going to get to the bottom of anything if we keep slapping that interpretation into things from our own limited worldview. But it's always nice to remember the late, great Terence McKenna, who was prophetic when he said these words.
It's only going to get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. So I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods.
We're there right now.
Because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
We're there right now.
It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion.
How right is Terence, right? It gives me chills every time I hear that. I would add probably interdimensional beings, angels, demons, ancient civilizations coming back, the hybrid topic, which is very prevalent today, and shit's just getting weirder and weirder. He's right. But yeah, I wanted to make it a special episode today, given that JD Vance gave me the entrance to discuss this more openly. Remember, a lot of it is interpretation according to the times and according to your upbringing and to what you learned in your household as you were growing up, and to the established powers of dogma and politics and current social structures and current political systems. It's all tied up, just like John Keel said, and it's getting weirder, just like Terence said. So whenever you hear something like this, don't be mad at people who say that. Try to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand that that's the worldview they have. And when the time comes, we'll see who's right and who's wrong. I don't think anybody's going to be right, if you ask me. I think whatever this is going to be so weird that we're not going to be able to understand it fully. But I think that people are ready for whatever comes our way, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments about JD Vance's most recent comments about UFOs. What do you think about the clips that I showed you of Stanton Friedman giving you a more detailed scientific explanation of what's going on, or what's been going on since the 40s at least? What do you think about Tom DeLonge's rant about the old gods and John Keel's comments about the phenomenon and about interpretation? Do you think all of this is just interpretation? Do you think actually angels and demons are real and they're separate to extraterrestrials? I know that people like, for example, Timothy Alberino, he thinks that everything is going on. He thinks that aliens and angels and demons and giants are real. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. And what do you think about that Terence McKenna clip about things getting weirder? They are, right? You can feel it. See you later. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us. And it is what helps us the most. So thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always very appreciated. So thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like Terence McKenna. Always. Bye.